This is Brian, ScreenFiles.com in review. What I'm looking at today is 2018's The Isle. And I've been thinking about this movie for a few days, and I needed an entry point because I didn't want to review it in a way that perhaps simplified it more than it needed to be. So, having seen the movie poster, I noticed a review from Stephen Fry where he says something to the effect that movies aren't made like this anymore. And that's perfect, because The Isle is made in such a way that you don't happen to see very often, which is to say, kind of boring. It's not bad, it is watchable, but it's just not very interesting. Not a lot happens, and it's not even frustrating. It's just kind of dull. It's picturesque, but you kind of wonder why you did it. The movie revolves around an island. The Isle, it kind of makes sense. The movie opens with three men in a rowboat, and clearly they just escaped a ship being capsized. And they don't know where they are or where they're going. The person who seemingly supposed to navigate can't. He doesn't know how to read charts. And so they end up on this island. On the island, there are only 4 or 5 people, 2 couples, male and female couples. And right off the bat, you know something weird is happening. In fact, one character literally says just that. And so we come to learn that later in the movie, too late for my liking, we learn that there was a crime committed. And the woman who was killed comes back as some type of demon. And she turns the 2 remaining women into sirens, and they pretty much lure boats to their destruction. Now, there's nothing wrong with the concept in and of itself. The problem is that we don't know why things are happening, and things just kind of happen because movie, and that's the worst possible thing. Because this woman who's killed, she comes back as I said earlier, some type of entity, demon or something like that. And my thing is, I was wondering why this was not based on some type of folk tale or some type of legend, something to give it weight, something to give it gravitas. But instead, it just happens. No reason, it just happened. Oh yes, and I forgot to mention that the island is also cursed by this being. So pretty much everyone evacuated. So I guess these 4 people weren't allowed to. I'm not too sure why they stayed when no one else did. But in any case, these 3 men arrive on the island. The spirit, demon, ghost, whatever it is, proceeds to go about trying to kill them. And it's just not very interestingly structured. As I said earlier, you don't know why things are happening, only that they happen. And that's not enough. And another thing is that the movie appears to take place on an actual island, or at least a place with an actual seashore. And there is such production value to be gained from using the area you're actually in, if at all possible. And this movie does it a little bit. It needed to do it a lot more. It's hard to even describe the production value a good landscape can bring to a movie, how we can elevate the look of the production. This one doesn't take advantage of it, not really. Which is to say that they're in the forest on occasion, but the forest is kind of just there. It doesn't really feel like it's relevant to things. I honestly think you could have subbed out that forest with anything else, and it wouldn't matter because it's not relevant to the story. And that's a pity, So going back to my introduction though, the point being is that they don't make movies like this anymore because this movie is kind of dull. There's no real hook to it. There's nothing to draw viewers into this world. It's just very, I wouldn't say haphazardly done, but that's not quite fair. It's just kind of presented. It doesn't give you any reason for anything happening other than movie. And that's not enough. Even if there is no actual legend in British or Irish folklore to explain what is happening, make one up. It doesn't have to be real. It just has to be something. Give us something that helps us understand why this world is happening. And when I was thinking about things that they don't do anymore in movies, the first thing that came to mind is black and white. There are a lot of people who are snobs about black and white movies. What they oftentimes miss, deliberately I think, is that black and white movies weren't an aesthetic choice in the early days of movie making. They didn't go, we have a color movie, we have a black and white movie, let's do it in black and white. No, that's not how it went at all. There was no other option. They couldn't make movies in color at first. So therefore, they did what they only could do, which is black and white. It was not an aesthetic decision. It was all they could do. So the idea that just because something is old is good is nonsensical on the face of it. That's not to say, in reference to black and white films, that there's not a certain aesthetic quality to it. That's not to say that black and white films can possess a certain richness that color films can't, or oftentimes don't. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying the only reason filmmakers made black and white movies is because they couldn't make color movies. If they could make color movies right off the bat, do you honestly think they would have made black and white ones? Of course not. And the same thing, the same logic could be applied to The Isle. It evokes past movies in a very real sense. But there are reasons why we don't make movies like that anymore. And they shouldn't have done it here. This could have been a really good, creepy movie. And it's not. It's not badly acted. It's not terribly shot. It's just very much middle of the road. Very much not terribly interesting. And if that type of movie isn't being made anymore, I'm all for advancement. So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Peace.